Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. My name is Sucheta and you are watching The Resplendent Home. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the six, seven, maybe 5, 6 things that you need to think about or plan ahead of time before you order your custom drapes. And before we get into it, I want to remind you that I am not a designer. So I'm mainly expressing my personal experience and my opinion. So take that with a grain of salt. So I got my drapery panels. I spent about $10,000 on my drapery panels, and I have made a video about that. I'll link it up. I made many mistakes since I am a DIYer and I was doing it by myself without a lot of information, which ended up costing me additional $1,000. And it took over 6 months to get them to look the way I wanted them to look. And there's not a whole lot of information out there when you look up on the internet, because a lot of people who are doing custom drapery panels, they have help. They have a designer or they have a friend who's helping them, who knows what they're doing. But if you are the kind of person that's doing it on your own and doing your own research, then you're in the right spot. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. So let's get into it, shall we? The number one thing that you need to remember is, what do you want your drapery panels to do? Do you want them to stand there and just look pretty? Or you also want them to provide sun protection and privacy? If you need serious sun protection and serious privacy, you need to think about a secondary window treatment that will do that job. Yes, I know. So after spending $10,000, I spent more money on a secondary window treatment. Here's the deal. This is the front of my house. Not only that, it's an east-facing room. So I have the sun blasting from these two windows earlier in the morning, and then it starts to kind of go that way, and then it's blasting this room from these two doors in the afternoon. So pretty much throughout the day, there's sun coming through the window and it's intense. I live up higher in the mountains, so there's no shade. And when we moved into this house, all the floors had severe sun damage. So I was truly concerned about my pretty wallpaper and my fabrics fading because of the sun. I knew that I needed serious sun protection. At the same time, I wanted my drapes to look pretty and perfect like this at all times. I don't trust myself to open and close my drapery panels every single day. I know that I can get lazy, because if you think about it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 more over here. So basically a total of 6. I can't even access the one that's on that window because it's behind a sofa. So if I wanted to get that look, I needed to compromise. I needed to come up with a plan B for sun protection. Drapery panels are here just to look pretty. I have these remote operated roller shades that go up and down as needed, and they're the ones that are providing me the sun protection that I need. Because like I said, I want privacy. Not only that, when I'm working here at nighttime, I don't want people who are driving by to see my shadow. That feels a little creepy. So it was very important to me that I get solid privacy, solid sun protection in this space. That's the reason why I decided I want a completely separate window treatment to do those two jobs. $10,000 is a lot of money to spend on something that's just going to look pretty, but that is the way high-end home design works. Like, there's no negotiations, unfortunately. So that's number one to think about. What do you want your drapery panels to do? Sun protection, privacy, and looking pretty are different jobs, and one thing cannot do all those jobs well. In my living room, I have Roman shades. Before I would go out to work, I would try to close them, then I would open them later when I came home. It is not a quick process. There's no way that a person can diligently close their Roman shades, especially if they want sun protection. I don't trust myself to do that. Important to know what you want your drapery panels to do. The second thing that you want to be aware of is that, where do you want your drapery panels to hang when they are completely open? And you're like, why does this matter? Well, it does matter for 2 reasons. Again, this is the front of my house. The back of your drapery panels is going to have white lining. I don't want the white lining of my drapery panels to be visible from outside. I don't think it's an attractive look. And again, if that's something that doesn't bother you, it's all good. But those are the things that you need to think about. When you get your drapery panels back from your workroom, you are not disappointed. If you look at my whole setup, all my drapery panels are outside the window because I don't want them to be visible from the outside. If this was the back of the house, or if this was the side of the house where nobody goes, it probably wouldn't matter. But front of the house, it matters. Now, in my case, this right here, this panel does cover the window. I had no choice because of the location of the bar. So you can see several inches of that drapery panel from the outside. It doesn't bother me because I know I don't have a choice. Like where else? Like I don't have any room on this side. But every single time when I drive towards my house, when I come home from work and when I'm driving to the garage, I notice the back of my drapery panels being visible from the outside. Because, like I said, the back of your drapery panel is going to have white lining. It's not attractive. I think it's almost unsightly to look at. That's something that you need to think about ahead of time so that you don't want your drapery panels to be right over your window, being visible from the outside, and then thinking, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I like it. My situation is a little special because I have a panoramic view of the Mississippi River from these two doors and the big window. And I don't want my drapery panels that are not even going to do the job of giving me sun protection to block my view, even partially. I don't want it. The whole reason why we bought this house in the first place is for the view. So the view is everything. And when I want to see the view, I want to see the view unobstructed. And I don't want my drapery panels to get in the way. At the front of the house, I have lots of hydrangeas. I have roses. I have worked really hard to plant my hydrangeas, and I don't want my drapery panels to obstruct any of my view when I'm here. If I want to control the light, I can close my roller shades as needed, or I can even close my drapery panels if I want. So I hope that makes sense. Maybe I'm an overthinker, or maybe these are the things that you need to think about when you're planning to spend a lot of money. However you take it, I think these are the things that matter. Now, number 3 is that once you decide where you want your drapery panels to hang, you will need to hang your rods and have your rings on the rods in order to come up with the length of your drapery panels and the width too. And I'll explain the width in a second. The length of your drapery panels is measured from the bottom of your ring to the top of your floor. You want your drapery panels to kiss your floors. That is the most current and, in my opinion, most timeless look. Nobody's doing that pooling at the bottom, like old school, silk drapes with a big pool at the bottom, pool, puddle, whatever you want to call. Nobody's doing that anymore. That is not a look that's popular. You don't want your drapery panels to be too short, like a crop pants. Not a good look either. So in order to achieve that exact length, you have to hang your rods ahead of time. You have to have your rings on your rods. Because when you talk to your workroom, and in my case, my workroom was out of state. I live in Illinois. My workroom is in Rhode Island. They wouldn't even talk to me about how much fabric I need to order or exactly how much the labor will be and all those things until I attached my rods and my rings were already on the rods. Because without accurate dimensions, nobody can give you an accurate quote as to how much fabric you will need. Number 4, another reason why you want to hang your rods is the width of your drapery panels is going to depend on where your brackets are going to be. My brackets are attached to the wall. 1, 2, 3 brackets are 6 inches outside the window for these 3 panels. This, I didn't have a choice because of the bar location. This window is 9 inches outside. The bracket is 9 inches outside the window. Same with this one. As a result of it, you can see that my drapery panels do not block the window. Most of the window is completely like wide open because of that. So wherever your brackets are going to be, that is a stationary point. That is where your curtain return is going to be. A return is when a fabric turns around and comes to the wall and you get a nice clean edge on the side. And there's a little eye hook on the top that holds that end of your drapery panel stationary. That doesn't move. So these drapery panels, they don't move all the way from one side to the other side. That is not how it's supposed to be. You want to know where your return is going to be. And for that reason, you have to have your brackets on the wall in order for you to measure accurately. Number 5, when you are measuring for your drapery panels, generally a designer will tell you that you got to have 1.5 to 2 times the width of your window. In my opinion, you got to have 1.5 to 2 times between brackets. Why is that? If your brackets are hanging significantly outside the window, you have to consider that. Otherwise, you're going to have drapery panels that don't look like they're going to close in the middle. So that means when I'm measuring the width, I need to consider the additional 18 inches for this window, additional 12 inches for this window, and at least additional 6 inches for this one, in order for them to close in the center. I want my drapery panels to be fun, hence I added pom-poms. I just don't want them to look silly. I want them to look like they're there to do the job if I want them to do the job. And there are times in summer when I will close these panels if I just want the light to filter. If you don't think about that ahead of time, you're gonna have some really short drapery panels that don't close like I did right over here. So when I first got my drapery panels, I only had 5 pleats on these. And as a result of it, there was a big gap between the 2 drapery panels in the middle. I was not happy with that. I wanted them to be functional. For the width, they looked really thin. So it was very visible just by looking at them that they were not gonna close. I just don't want my window covering to give away, like right away at first glance, that they cannot close in the middle. Not a big fan. That's just me. So the next thing is fabric. When it comes to choosing your fabric, you are going to need lots and lots and lots of fabric for your custom drapery panels, because without the right amount of pleats, which means generally lots and lots of pleats, your drapery panels are going to look skinny. They're not going to look right. You want to have lots and lots of pleats to give that luxurious high-end custom look. I'll be the first person to tell you that do not compromise on the yardage. You can compromise on the pattern if you want to keep it within a certain budget. You cannot tell the difference between a fabric that costs $100 and a fabric that costs $300. What you will be able to tell is that if there are not enough pleats, and if it looks like you needed more pleats, your room is going to look cheap. My fabric is about $140 a yard, which is at the lower end. I mean, I just saw a fabric that's almost $1,000 a yard, and I'm talking about wholesale. When you're looking at a room, a $1,000 fabric is not going to look 10 times better. But if you compromise on the yardage, your drapery panels are going to look cheap. So they're going to look like you bought them on the shelf. And I will be happy to show you 1,000 examples here, 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 where the designer has chosen yards and yards of fabric in order to give that luxurious high-end look. Number 7 is lining. What kind of lining do you want? At the very least, need to get a light blocking type of lining to give that fullness to your drapery panels. I think lining is not negotiable. You kind of have to have that. Otherwise, you're just going to have drapery panels that look casual. They don't hang properly. They just don't have the right weight, especially if you're choosing a fabric that's linen. But I think most fabrics, you kind of have to have lining. So a light filtering lining is kind of the default. If you want your drapery panels to control the sunlight, or if you want to close them at nighttime, if it's a bedroom, then you want a blackout lining. But there's a third option. You can also do what's called an interlining, which is like a much thicker lining that gives a really full, kind of luscious appearance to your drapery panels. If I had the option to do that in this room, I would have totally done that. Unfortunately, because of the fact that I have 2 significantly different size windows, if I had added the interlining and made these drapery panels extra thick, then this would have been too thick and it would have also covered the window. So my situation was slightly different, but consider adding an interlining to give that lush look. It really looks amazing. Like you can see right here, the interlining just makes them look thick. It almost looks like a blanket. And I love the look of it. It's very interesting how our eyes perceive these things, which may seem insignificant, but they do perceive them and they do add to the luxurious look of a space. Those details do matter, even though they may seem that they don't. All right, what's next? You want to think about the trim. I definitely recommend doing custom drapery panels with a trim. I think the trim changes the appearance of the drapery panels. It just looks so pretty. Again, details. When it comes to custom home decor, details are everything. Your eyes are drawn to it. You instantly notice them. Your eyes also linger on them. So as you're looking around the room, you will notice all the details. And a trim is a detail that I don't think you should miss when you're getting your custom drapery panels made. The thing about trims is that they are expensive. There's no doubt about that. But there are many, many options to find cheaper trims that look just as pretty. and I found this pom-pom trim that was $20 a yard, and it was just perfect. I fell in love with it. I love pom-poms. I love anything that's round shaped like balls. I think it just makes the room so much fun. So I added this trim. So in my opinion, lining is not negotiable. Trim is not negotiable. So don't skimp on those. You're spending a lot of money already. Just spend some more and just go for it. You only live once. All right, the next thing to remember is this is just a kind of general guideline. Any drapery workroom that you work with, and I have worked with a couple, they're generally a small business. Whatever they tell you, their time estimate is they're going to take twice as much to do the work. I'm not joking. If they tell you 4 weeks, it's going to take them 8 weeks. If they tell you 6 weeks, it's going to take them 12 weeks. If you want your custom drapery panels for Thanksgiving, you want your house to be ready, you need to order them in June or July. Because otherwise, you're just not going to get them on time. So plan ahead is what I'm saying. That's coming from me. I don't plan. That's why I have to redo things. So those are the things that I want you to be aware of when you're ordering your custom drapery panels. Plan a little bit ahead. Know what you want your drapery panels to do, where you want them to hang. Then hang your hardware. Decide on the fabric. Decide on the length and width. Decide on the lining. Decide on the trim. And then go ahead and order. And wait, and wait, and wait for them to come back. In my case, since I was DIYing this whole process, of course, I got the drapes made by a professional seamstress. I hung them myself, so nobody came to hang them. If you are completely outsourcing the project, they will come and hang for you. Then they will steam it. They need to be properly trained in order for them to lay properly and all those things. So those are the things that you need to know before you order your custom drapery panels. All right, let me know if this video helped. Leave comments. I'll be happy to answer those questions. If I can make more videos based on your comments, I would love to do that. And I will see you next time.